for those who don't know him, when he was a little kid, he was pretty much like he is now. He can't stop. Could never sit still. So it was always like, what the hell can we do to wear this kid out, man? It's like has more energy than I even have, and I figure I have a lot of energy. So yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, I want to do something. Do that. Go run around the house. I'll count the laps. We'll time it. Whatever works to make him excited." Like, "Yep, that's one. There he goes. That's two. Just keep going, man. You're doing great. Love it."
Love it. Keep going. And I was happy as a clam. What is up, All Terrain Fitness? We are here with another episode of the Fueling Fire show with, like I said already, I'll repeat it again, All Terrain Fitness. You are here with one Garry, and we happen to have a second Garry on today. That is because that Garry is my father. So what's going on, old man?
How's it going, man? It's going great. Good to be talking to you.
Yeah, good to be talking to you on a Wednesday midday lunchtime.
That's right. I made sure I got my lunch in before I talked to you, so I wouldn't get all hungry and stuff.
That's right, a little hangry, start tailing off. That's what I did yesterday. We were recording yesterday, and I was didn't have any carbs, and it definitely showed.
Yeah.
I also feel like we should have a glass of whiskey and cigar currently.
That would be good. That would probably make this a little bit more exciting, right?
Yeah, it would. Or maybe more exciting in our heads, but make a little less sense for everyone else.
That is true. It might not make sense after a little while. What do you mean? You probably have whiskey in that mug right now. It's what, like 10, 11 o'clock there, right?
Don't let them know I'm an alcoholic.
We'll keep that a little secret.
But crew, if you're listening, if you're on here, I thought the old man would be a good guest to have on since we both love fitness. My craziness for an addiction to movement definitely stems from him. Case in point, and a little bit of social proof is that he's wearing his qualified Boston shirt.
Yeah, that is a qualified Boston shirt. That's 2018. I ran it twice, 2015 and 2018. So pretty excited about that.
How old were you?
I guess first one, 2015. Well, what would I be? 46?
46, 47?
Yeah, 46, 47. Yeah. Yeah, 53 now. So, yeah, about that. 46, 47. That's kind of probably when I got into my 40s, about when I started doing distance running. I mean, as you know, I was always more of a sprinter and weightlifter, and got in the 40s and started doing some distance running, some ultras and so forth.
Yeah. What's the furthest that you ran?
60 miles. I did like a 50K, ran a 50 miler, then I attempted a 100 miler up in New Hampshire. And, it was one of those nights of running all night. I was pretty tired. It was raining. It was cold in New Hampshire. And me and my buddy pretty much go ahead.
You did start the race a little bit not a true form.
Yeah, true. I forgot I told you about that story. Yeah. So we go up to New Hampshire, and he met some family. We went out to a bar. Next thing you know, it's like 11:30, 12. We have too many drinks, and we're like, oh, shit, we got to run a 100-miler tomorrow. Because let's face it, anybody out there that's an endurance or distance runner, there is a point where you kind of get a little full of yourself, like, fuck it, I can get up and run 10 miles, 20 miles tomorrow, whatever, who cares? Well, I'd never run 100 miles, but, that sounds like a sensible thing to do. Go get a little snookered and then wake up hungover the next day.
The ego didn't disappear regardless of it being 100 miles is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah. The ego, yeah.
I can still do it.
Yeah, exactly. I can still do it. So, yeah, we got about 60 miles. Yeah, I think my buddy, he canned out at like 45, 50. I got at like 60, 65. And it was cold. It was like, in the early morning hours in New Hampshire and raining. And we pretty much said, screw it. We're done.
Fuck it. We're out.
Yeah, fuck it. We're done.
You did it.
Yeah.
You did a 60-miler hungover. And then what was your pace for when you ran Boston?
Well, to qualify, 7:30, about a 7:25, 7:30 pace when I ran in 2015 and qualifying time. So I think my best marathon was probably the Erie Marathon, like a 3:15, 3:17, somewhere around there. It's about the best I ever got.
So 7:30 pace is pretty much faster than what 99% of America can run for 1 mile, and you did that for 23 miles, 26 miles. I don't even know how long a marathon is. Sorry,
26.2, man. Come on, you should know that.
The 3s and the 6s, the half. I'm always like, is it? I give my 3s and 6. I lift things for a living.
Yeah. I pick things up, I put them down.
I count in 10s, 25s, and 45s.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only good math I know.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to kind of get that out there to paint an example or a picture of that. Me and my father both have a mutual love for moving, and I think it's more than just the sheer fact of vanity. I think you would say. I think it's more or less for both of our mental sanity. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. Basically, we would both go a little crazy if we didn't move.
Yeah. If you mean by the fact in between all my meetings at work, I get up and swing the golf club at times, yeah, because I need to keep moving at all times.
Yeah. So that's where I got running the laps from, eh?
Yeah. About the running the laps. Sorry, you broke up there a little bit.
Yeah. When I said that's where I got running the laps from.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like for those who don't know him, when he was a little kid, he was pretty much like he is now. He can't stop. Could never sit still. So it was always like, what the hell can we do to wear this kid out, man? It's like he has more energy than I even have, and I figure I have a lot of energy. So yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, I want to do something. Do that. Go run around the house. I'll count the laps. We'll time it. Whatever works to make him excited." Like, "Yep, that's 1. There he goes. That's 2. Just keep going, man. You're doing great. Love it."
Love it. Keep going. And I was happy as a clam, dude. I can remember. I have a vivid picture of me and the Mallard Landing house. A vivid picture running around that little centerpiece of the house and being super thrilled. Like that's how powerful of a memory it was for me, is running the house, counting laps.
For sure. It was either inside lap house or outside lap house, whatever. If the weather was nice, go run some laps outside. Weather's not nice, we'll run laps inside.
Yeah.
Wear the kid out. So
movement's been a pretty big part of both of our lives. Hence why I probably own a fitness company. And, I think one thing, a big reason I wanted to bring you on is, hey, you're a really good testament of what, in my eyes, what Simplistic fitness can do over time if you stay consistent with it. You don't make it too complicated. You train with intent to get the most bang for your buck. And, I think one thing, and I maybe have never expressed this to you, that I always experience is that I've heard, my age, being a coach and a personal trainer and stuff like that. A lot of people have said, "Oh, well, wait till you're my age." And I'm like, well, okay, my father is doing the same thing I'm trying to tell you to fucking do. And he's running marathons at age almost 50 at a 7:30 mile pace. So your argument of this, wait till you're my age, is pretty null and void. So since I don't have the proof of time, since I'm not an old fart like you quite yet.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have to use you as an example case study for the All Terrain method. So, in your own words, kind of, how do you approach fitness? How do you approach your workouts? How are you being able to stay lean at 50 and not be like everyone else who feels like they've lost their metabolism?
You know what? I don't know who said this, so I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I think I read it somewhere. Well, I think one of the key things is, as you get older, Like, look, for majority of the people, I can't go out and compete with a 20-year-old, right? There's certain things I just can't do. I used to be a sprinter. Some 20-year-old, if he's a sprinter the same as me, he's gonna beat me, right? In a competition, right? As we get in long distance running, things equal out a little bit more. But the one thing we can do, even if I'm running slower nowadays in my sprint works or lifting weights, lifting less weight, I can still go at the same intensity to what feels like the same intensity in my body as I did when I was 20, right? So I think that's the thing you can do no matter what age you're at is if I go out and run sprints, I can run them as hard and as same intensity as what it feels like in my body as I did when I was 20. I'm pushing just as hard, right? I'm pushing as hard as I can in those hit workouts or those sprint workouts. I may not be going as fast as I did back then. So I think it's the love affair of that keeps you going. That you guys talk about finding fire, right? But it's not this, at least from my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong since it's your tagline, but it's not just finding fire once, right? It's continuing to find fire, right? Every time I step out there to go run, every time you pick up a weight, every time you're involved with fitness, even every time you're thinking about what you're going to eat or not eat, you're finding that fire, right? And that's, I think, the beauty of your catchphrase is that's what you get addicted to as being in fitness, right? If I go out and run sprints, like, Monday going out and running some 400s, right? Each one of those 400s, I'm finding fire. And I think that relates to that finding fire is like, I'm pushing to that intensity on that 400. It may not be as fast as it was when I'm 20, but I can still push as hard as when I was 20 and finding that intensity level.
There's that point that we see with our athletes that I've seen coaching so many people, right? It is oftentimes when they're starting their fitness journey, it's kind of this, and I'll get a little bit more into the science in a second, but it registers in their body more as pain, right? And especially as you age, like it's more of running on this pain mechanism where like, oh my gosh, this intensity just sucks. But as you start to make more ground, you continually press into those things, the body and the mind starts to flip and enjoys it, because the best way to explain it is pain and pleasure run on the same pathway, right? And what can feel like pain for somebody can feel like pleasure to somebody else. And you can flip those things. And you do that by letting the brain start to associate that this action that we're taking with fitness is actually getting me to a position of thriving, right? The brain's always trying to recognize, is this action that I'm taking to get me to, that I'm doing right now, does this either A, help my survival, or B, help me thrive, right? And so many people that are not at the physiology that they want to be at, right? The brain just associates this as something that's not helping my survival. Like, what are you doing? We're burning a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
But then once you start to make progress, the brain starts to flip that association. Like, oh shit, this is something that makes me thrive. And then you can start to tap into more of that, maybe that more addicted feeling or enjoyment feeling that you and I definitely probably are a little bit more genetically disposed to. Considering I used to just run laps just for the sheer sake of it. But it's that you have to be willing to get that first bit that isn't comfortable, but you can switch to that position where it feels great, and then you find that fire. And I think that's something that you've been able to do with your training for as long as I've known you, is to, with what little time you have, get into it with intent, hit it with intensity. And that's allowed you to keep a pretty good physiology and still have a pretty good lifestyle balance.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this, and a lot of your stuff that you guys are doing with All Terrain is finding the way to get that in the most efficient manner possible, right? Obviously, growing up, I was involved with sports and football and track, but as anybody here can sit and do the math, you're what, 31, I'm 53. I had you at a pretty young age, right? So it kind of became an immediate, I wasn't 30s or 40s and got a kid and now I got to fit in exercise. Like, I'm still young, 20, and I want to stay in shape, right? And I got to figure out how to fit this in. So you become very efficient at like, okay, do I really need to work out 7 times a week? Or no, what if I hit it really hard 3, 4 times a week for 25, 30 minutes? The whole start of hit, the whole idea of this hit mentality, and some of the things that are becoming very prevalent and popular right now, it's at the time. And funny side note, talk about one of these type of things. Like, I don't even think you knew this, but when we lived at the first apartment, when we moved back from the Air Force, I had a Smith machine. The best part is, guess where do you even remember where that Smith
I
machine
remember
was?
I remember at Mallard House, the blue house. It was in the garage. I remember the Smith machine.
But at the house or apartment before that, it was in the bedroom with your mom and I, man. It was like, okay, the kids in bed, time to hit the weights, big things up, awesome. Put them down. Yeah, so like, you have this Smith machine, second floor bedroom Smith machine with 300-pound weights up there. I had to ask the landlord at the time. He's like, "Is this floor gonna hold it?" Good thing it was like the old wood houses, like big, back
big
when they
steel,
used logs. Yeah. The whole house, like, oh yeah, we're fine. That's like old logs in there. It's not gonna drop through. Nowadays house, I'm not sure you could fit a Smith machine with 300
you're
pounds.
sitting on a bunch of 2x4 pine.
Exactly, you're gonna drop through. But you find the time to do those things because, like you said, it becomes important and you're finding that fire all the time, right?
Yeah, well, it definitely paints a pretty clear picture of where I got my craziness from
Yeah, for sure.
Willing to do stupid shit like putting a Smith machine.
Yeah, hopefully it's the good craziness, right?
It is.
Forget the bad craziness.
That's right. Hey,
we don't want that.
I'm making a living off of the craziness, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, totally jealous. Right.
My dad always likes to give me a lot of shit that, in my early 20s, I made it more complicated and that I need to do this. And then he's always had really good insight of like me, first starting All Terrain, I really wanted to train like peak athletes. And he's like, hey, dude, you could help like spread your impact into a lot more people, showing them the basics, showing them how to do these things that maybe you find simple. And I didn't listen. And, there was a lot of, maybe not struggle, but, failure to launch because I was trying to do the more nuanced high level athlete thing. And then once I finally listened to helping more of, people who need a little bit more help kind of creating this All Terrain lifestyle, did we start to find some more success. He's always giving me shit for not listening, but I do eventually listen. And then, now I've bottled up the product that I've learned from him in a lot of regards, and I'm the one making profit off of it. So, slow to learn, slow to listen, but hey, still making it work.
That's right. You guys are definitely making it work. Yeah.
That's right. Anytime you come up with some more genius products, and I'll figure out how to sell them now.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on that, right?
All right.
But the beauty is that you are reaching people, right? It's like, you're reaching the people that need the help, the people that do need to find the fire, right? You and I, we were kind of born with finding the fire. We're fortunate in that regard. And it was just our job just not to lose it, right? It's like we talk about, you and I, you heard me say this before, sometimes with kids, everybody wants to change the kids, but sometimes the job of the parent is just not to fuck them up, right? Just don't mess the kid up. They're on a good path, and to bring that into light, you always, what you talked about, I always knew you were on a good path. So I didn't want to steer you off that path because it was your passion. It was things you were doing. So a lot of advice is like, hey, you have a good message. You have a great personality and you have a great message and you're committed to this exercise and making it work as not only your lifestyle, but as a business. And it was something like we talked about. You're passionate from little on up. Why would I want to knock that out of you, right? That's your passion. It's what you're desiring. So you said it perfectly there. The idea was to, look, you have this great message. Why don't you try and get it to a broader audience? People that aren't born with it. A lot of the great athletes, they're kind of born with that, right? They have that born, find the fire drive. But there's a group of people out there that need to understand what is finding that fire, or what is a way I can work out only 3-4 times a week and still have a family and still do the other things I want. I hear you many times in your thing, still have that beer or that whiskey, or the cigar occasionally, that it doesn't become this total commitment. And you and I have talked about it many times. It's like anything we do in life, it's about creating balance, right? There's a balance. So
It is. And that's unfortunately, like, so many get trapped into something, like you said, that is overly, you said it in a different way, but something that's all consuming, right? That is too much time, doesn't elicit balance, makes you feel like you have to either eat, all super clean, organic, and eliminate all the fun things, or it's either all in on that or all out. And those are still the people that we really help. And then also too, I think, one thing that resonated with me that you just mentioned was talking about getting out of my own fucking way, right? And a lot of people, mine was with business, but a lot of people it's with fitness, right? A lot of people can't get out of their own fucking way to get to this physiology that they know they want to get to, that they know is going to make them feel better. They know that it's going to make their relationships better. It's going to give them more energy to raise their kids, so on and so forth, right? But there's also a lot of people that are in the position who can't get out of their own fucking way with their fitness. And I think that's kind of where I am realizing now. I'm like, not only am I helping people with the things that I enjoy, right? I've also learned how to get out of my own fucking way. So it's now I'm trying to help people get out of their own fucking way with their health, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great way of approaching it, and hopefully whoever's, recording this is also ticking off how many times we use the F word, right? Because it's a pretty popular word between us. So we can turn this whole video into a drinking game. Every time any one of the Garrys says, fuck, take a drink, right?
That's right. As it should be.
But no, you raise a good point, like getting out of your own way. And I think, that's the whole idea of it. Since we're on this topic, getting out of your own way, I'll share a small story with you as well. It's probably you never heard, right? Obviously, situations in the past between your mama, I didn't work out. And I don't want to go down the path of that. But there was a period in my life, and it was a little bit of a wake-up call. While I was still working out, I probably wasn't finding the fire at that moment, right? And a lot of us have this like turning point in our life. And I remember I was driving back from spending time with you guys that weekend down in Maryland. And I was in a McDonald's, right? Of all these places, right? I was in a Mickey D's. And it's late in the evening. I'm kind of washing up, and you're kind of like, washing your hands, your face, get under the blow dryer. You're drying your face. You're taking your bird bath at McDonald's because you've been kind of on the road all day, right? And I suddenly realized, like, this is my third meal of the day I've had at McDonald's. I've literally had breakfast, lunch, and dinner at McDonald's. I need to get back to finding fire. And it really was that moment that I had, like, I need to get back to finding fire. I need to, A, get out of my way, B, put myself and the things, my body and the finding fire and the exercise back as a priority in my life, right? Not that it wasn't there, but it wasn't probably, as a priority as it has been in the past. Some things, just time and life and jobs, like many people run into. I was in my mid-30s then. Everybody's busy with life and things are happening. You're trying to spend time with the kids and stuff. But, and we have these epiphanies, but you and I always talked about, it's like trying to find that before it gets out of hand, right? Trying to find that, get back to that fire, get back to the efficiency before it gets this big arching hill now that you got to climb to get back, right?
Yeah. So what was your first move?
I think my first move was getting back to something I love doing, running. I think it's kind of what set me back into running again, right? I was always lifting and, lifting and working out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, I don't know if you remember that one point where it was just, lifting weights. Used to have a motto like, fuck cardio was my motto. Right?
I think a lot of people still have that one.
I know, right? Fuck cardio. but at the end of the day, it's not even about cardio. It's finding, I think, the movement that you enjoy. So kind of going back to
Yep.
running was what kind of saved me a little bit there.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. Whenever we tell people like, hey, we're trying to help you create the all terrain lifestyle, we're going to address the nutrition. But whenever we get to training, I always say to them, I'm like, hey, it needs to be something that you enjoy, right? Like it needs to be something that you associate with a positive emotion. Like if you're going to the gym and you hate it and you loathe it and you think like, well, I just have to keep doing this to stay healthy, even though you hate the action that you're doing to get there, you're never going to stick with it, right? And I think that's something you and I have been able to find very easily is like these things that we love to begin with, right? So when we go and do it, right, we're already more gravitated towards it, right? And I don't hit any of my dogs to get them to sit and take that action over and over. So why do people, I always tell people, I'm like, why are you consistently, you give the dog a treat. It associates that action with a positive emotion. And so I always tell people, I'm like, why are you doing these exercise protocols that you hate, right? Why are you attaching this negative emotion? Like give yourself something that you enjoy so you want to keep doing that. And I think that's a good takeaway from your little epiphany moment where it was like, I just need to get back to something that I fucking love.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And finding that, and like you said, then when you find that, you do push through those moments. You go harder at that. And, but and a key, I read a. I mean, you read Shoe Dog. You're the one who gave me the book Shoe Dog, right? So one of the things in there about running, he talks about, you have to have the right mindset and the right form, right? When you talk about running, right mindset, right form. But I'd like to take a step further. It's like, I don't think you're ever going to get into the right mindset unless you have the right form, because running's always going to be painful unless you learn how to run properly. And we all have innate ability to learn how to run properly, right? And I think it's the same thing that you're teaching people. Like, look, in order to get into the right mindset, you have to have the right form. You have to have the right knowledge of mobility, the right knowledge of nutrition, the right knowledge of exercise, or it always is going to feel painful. It always is going to be like you're hitting the wall and everything because you don't have the right form or the knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like, once
exactly.
yeah, go ahead.
You're going to have that pain association with that action.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to be that pleasure because it sucks. Your form sucks. What you're doing sucks. The way you're working out has no fucking intent. I mean, you and I have said it. How many people do we see just doing the same jog? We're throwing on the same hoodie, running the same pace,
Yeah.
going the same route, never making any progress. You see them running out on your house maybe at the beginning of January, then they do it again next January, and then they're done. It's like, yeah, of course it sucks. It sucks because you're overeating like shit. So then your system's bogged down with digestion. You're going out and doing this movement that your form is terrible at. So your body's like, this is also painful. It's like, how the hell do you expect yourself to get there and stay there, right? Like get to a position where you're harnessing your eating and not smashing McDonald's 3 times in one day.
I know, right?
So you actually give yourself a shot of feeling better to want to go and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, why go out and kill yourself every day running or lifting weights or even with what you're eating if you don't have the proper form of nutrition? And once you get, obviously running's a big part of my life and understanding that. So I can relate a lot of things to that. But, even myself and, transition from a sprinter to a distance runner, I had to learn form. And for those of you out there listening, one of the big things that, he talks about some of the things I taught him, but one of the big things he taught me was going through my training for Boston when I was trained for my first marathon and stuff was mobility, right? The whole new concept of mobility and rolling out and taking care of yourself before you run and after you run. I grew up in the old days. We just kind of, did a couple, kind of crazy stretches, what they would probably be labeled as useless stretches nowadays, right? Back in the 80s. And then you go run and that was it. You didn't do anything else. But, I think I had runner's knee, right? When I first ran. And then you helped me show me some mobility stuff to how to combat that and treat it and take care of it. And those type of things have stuck with me throughout all my working out now. I have a routine that I go through the mobility and rolling out exercises. So, again, going back to what we just said, right? Knowing the form, knowing the proper way to take care of yourself via mobility. So running doesn't become an injury, a lifelong injury and battle or whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same mechanism as if you're somebody who's overfueling your system, you're not at a leaner composition that makes you feel good. It's the same thing as the runner who has an injury, right? Like you go out and run, now your brain's focused on the pain. It sucks. It's not as fun, right? It's the same thing. And we all, at All Terrain, we kind of have like our pyramid of like what's important, right? And so, the base of the pyramid is always like mastering the things most essential to your survival, right? Like meaning sleep, mastering getting good quality sleep. A lot of people suck at sleeping. Mastering not overfueling your gas tank with food, but also not consistently underfueling, because both of those suck and aren't good for you. And then your hydration, right? I'm like, let's, if these things, like, you can't live without water for 3 days, you can't live without food for 7 days, right? You can't live without sleep, like you would even die without sleep. Like, it's probably pretty important for you to gain some level of order and understanding of those things if you want to focus on the higher level things, right? So many people, like myself in the past, wanted to go for this really nuanced bullshit, right? Like, oh, this one food's going to get me this one thing that's going to solve all my problems, right? Instead of saying, hey, how do I just master those things that are the basics, which is kind of what you've always brought me back to in a lot of regards.
Yeah, and some of that was like you said, you're always looking for that, magic bullet. I think people are still doing that in life, looking for that magic bullet that's gonna, because I remember you'd be calling, Dad, you need to do this, or Dad, you need to try that, and I would just shake my head. Yep, it's like I'm just gonna kind of stick on the path that is. Because
that's right.
Look, the beauty, I think, of what you're doing, there's a number of beauties, right? We talked about you teaching people to find fire, and they need to continue to do that and have those McDonald's moments over and over again every day, going out, running, finding fire. But the other beauty, I think people don't understand that you're bringing to them is we as humans, we always want to overcomplicate everything, right? You talk about some of the smartest people in IT and product development, like Steve Jobs. What made Steve Jobs great, whether you like him or dislike him for personally, I'm not getting into that, but for what he did with the iPhone and stuff, he took something complicated and made it simple. And if you read enough, you understand that is one of the toughest things for any human to do. And it shows a very high level of intellect to be able to take this complicated thing and break it down into its simplest form. And I think that's what you guys provide for people. Not only are you teaching form, but you're teaching them the simplicity of how it can be, right? And how you can do these things efficiently and with, not a lot of effort and having to think and overthink everything, So I think that's a beauty of what you guys are bringing, because, you know, like you said, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It doesn't have to be that time consuming, but until you understand that and have experienced that and have someone such as like you and Haley show you that path, your chance of getting that is probably zero.
Yeah, and people are always like, hey, this one thing didn't work out, so it must, like, the logical human progression is to think the next thing needs to be more complex, more nuanced, right? And it's like, there was a basic or some, fundamental pillar at the bottom that you haven't quite mastered yet, right? You try to go for this one thing that's too far, and then you're going for another thing that's reaching too far. Like with keto diet, right? Like I'll use this I think this is a good way to paint like nuance and then also people who are sucked into a rabbit hole. Like, why, first of all, the true keto diet, if you do it the right way, where you're tracking your specific carbs, fats, proteins, and you're not over calorically intaking, right? It has a lot of upside for people that have epilepsy, right? Like, it's amazing. It's a really good intervention. So people get into the ketosis is what must be the thing. But what people didn't hear is like, hey, if you did the diet correctly in the first place, you'd be adhering to not overfueling your system, right? You're eating very specific carbs, fats, and proteins, right? And so people are going for that, thinking like, I need to get into ketosis, and they're still over fueling with just fatty foods, right? So they took the one thing that sound very complex and nuanced and thought that was the causation of progress, but not the thing that sounded very simplistic of like, well, you still need to adhere to your caloric intake. That just goes over people's ears, right? And I think that's a very thing that happens to all of us. Happened to me. It happens to me all the time in business, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm always like, what's this one little hack where I'm like, yo, just do these basic things continually over time and your business will grow, right?
Yeah, yeah. You and I talk about a lot of times, just the next steps, right? Let's not overcomplicate it. Just what are the next steps that we're going to take, and we'll get there, right? You just keep going the next steps and we're going to eventually achieve that goal, whatever that is in your life, exercise, fitness, or career wise, right? Going for that next step.
For sure.
I think that's a really good point.
So another reason I wanted to bring you on here is because, we coach a lot of people your age, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and a lot of people have gone on this multiple decade struggle of fitness, not being able to get to where they want to go and keep it. And one thing that I see is people that once they get their physiology in alignment, life seems to be a fuck ton better for them.
Yes.
In every regard. So what do you I know what I've seen. What do you kind of see, being somebody who's at your age and you've been able to keep your fitness, like what is this long-term value you've been able to gain from that? And what do you see people who haven't been able to do that? What kind of have you seen their life start to turn in towards going in the opposite direction?
I think it's a good question. And I think one of the things, you have this long-term benefit, right? And you have a short-term benefit, and they both relate to recovery. Like one of the things you notice as you get older, while you or someone else, let's say a simple thing, you go up the steps the same thing as someone else, right? But what you notice if you maintain your fitness, when you get to the top of the steps, you're not out of breath and you recover a lot quicker than the other individual, right? Someone your age, right? And I think that's the transcending thing, not only in just that little bit, like when I do activities, go run with the kids or go play golf, I recover faster in the short term. But then I also think long term, if you do have these injuries and learn and have your body in a state, it can recover faster. So I think the long term, short term, meaning you get it every day, but also long term is you just recover quicker from these injuries, right? The injuries don't sideline you forever, right? You throw your back out with some exercises and strength, 1 or 2 days, I'm back at it, right? 1 or 2 days, I'm back swinging the golf club or back to running, right?
Yeah. How many people do we know at your age that they tweak their back and they're like in a back brace for the next year or two?
Absolutely.
It's like,
yeah, it just...
Dude, you could get out of that so quickly if you just took care of the simple things, right? Kept your lean body mass, stayed strong, like got back to moving instead of just sitting still and sedentary.
Yeah. And I think that's, as you get older, you don't realize when you're younger, how beneficial that is, that you're just younger and your body recovers faster till you start hitting your 40s and 50s. It's kind of the same thing like drinking. When you're 20, you recover a lot faster from a night of drinking than when you're in your 50s, right? You don't recover so sure. But like we talked about before, one of the things being in 50s, 53 now, and still maintaining, this active lifestyle, is that recovery. We talked about, I get to work just as hard as a 20-year-old. Maybe I'm not running as fast as I did when I was 20, but now I also get that same benefit as I can recover just as quick as a 20-year-old, right? The strength is still there. And the beauty is, like you said, it doesn't take a lot of effort, right? It's not like, I'm spending X hours a day working out, you 25, 30 minutes, 3-4 times a week. A lot of times I don't even, pick up the weights. It just might be push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, run some HIIT. But, it's like you said, understanding the form, understanding what you got to do also on the mobility side. And not only that, but understanding nutrition. But it's not like you have to give up everything to reap very high reward. And I think that's maybe what some people don't understand is, You don't need to do 10 to 15 hours a week of working out to get a long-term huge reward, I think even 20% of effort, if I spend, not even, if you spend 3 times a week, how much of that is your week of time, right? 1, 2%, 3, 5, 10% of your overall time in that week, but you're reaping 80 to 100% time benefit. You and I talked about so much. It's like, obviously you can tell we both get jazzed about this topic, but what other machine out there, when we talk about computers, IT and stuff like that, what other machine out there, the harder you work, it grows, right? We have those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing, right? I drive my
Yeah.
car. Now maybe Tesla someday they'll develop a car that, regenerates and
That's
grows
right.
stronger as you drive it, but we're not there yet. But the human body, right? I mean, think about how it grows and transforms, and that's the beauty. You can we've talked about so many times, taking that and transforming your body, but it's taking those next steps, getting that transformation down at the micro level, right? The organism level, the cell. They talk about long distance running. People, you go out and just, they call them junk miles. But part of that is just getting at the cellular level, the body used to that movement, to that repetitiveness, to the form, getting efficiency. We think efficiency is just at this, more macro arm level. Hey, if I'm efficient at doing this, but we don't realize is over time, and it's kind of like we talked about, I think earlier, like what's the benefit of doing this over a lifespan and keep doing it is you have that form and ability at the micro level, the cellular level. Like, hey, form's not just this, but inside all those cells that have memory and they've learned how to efficiently do this movement, right? How many of us lifted weights and bench press and then you go away from it for like 5 years and then bench press and you're like, whoa, it's wobbly because you think, it's just a movement like that, but you've lost some of that internal micro, memory.
Adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for lack of a better word. And, and that's key in distance running. And that's why you run those miles, because you're really just getting the micro level to be the most efficient at that movement, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it's an awesome thing to think about. Like you said, that like, what other machine do I make it work harder, press more, and then that's actually what makes it better instead of deteriorate, right? It's not, it's not like you hammering the gas pedal and taking this depreciating asset of a car and making it break down quicker, right? You're putting it, hey, get pedal to the metal, and the body's like, sweet, I'm gonna, rejuvenate, get stronger, come back bigger, faster, stronger, and I mean, that in and of itself is just a fucking amazing aspect of fitness, right? Like, it's so wild to think about that, how abstract that is, that you're just, hey, when I signal to the body, I'm going to fucking do this, the body's like, okay, I'll adapt to it.
Yeah. I mean, look at Haley. Didn't she just run a great half marathon time, right? She hated running, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She did some running, worked on her form, took that time to create that micro change in her body. And next thing, she's running a 2-hour half marathon. That's great for her.
Yeah.
So, and that's
fun. And she did have maximal heart rate on the last mile. She was at 202 beats per minute.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Her friend who was pacing her, like, tried to give her a hug after they crossed the finish line. She's like, I can't. I think I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, yeah, you just did. You did a nice VO2 max test right at the last mile of your half marathon.
Yeah. But, that's great that she did that. And like you and I have talked many times before, I mean, that's the beauty. I mean, whatever we transition to, either mentally or physically, we have that capability of transforming. Whether you're going from a sprinter to a distance runner, maybe you'll never be the best, but you can transform your body to accomplish those things. It's amazing when you think about it. And then, as you get older, like my age, we talk, one of the things I say a lot is, a lot of things at this point in time, like, look, I am 50, right? I'm not going to go out there and try and squat 400 or 500 pounds or bench press 300 again, right? But I've created a level of fitness where I'm in shape, weighing, close to the same weight as what I weighed in, early years and 20s. Can train just as hard as I did back then for the most part, but I'm trying to maintain that. I've created that micro change, and part of my job right now is just to maintain that micro change so that way I do keep reaping that benefit of faster recovery in general, right?
Yeah, 100%. And there's also it's also what are you answering to, right? Like you're either going to be able to can you put in the minimum dose of effort that produces the maximum results so you can have the max ROI on your time and effort in your fitness. But then also too, you're answering to two different trajectories in life, right? Like you and I always bring it back to the Matrix, right? Like you are the writer of your story. You are the one who can program into this reality what you want your trajectory to look like. And the problem is like your trajectory is going to be one that's shitty if you don't take the action, regardless if you want it to be that way or not, right? Like,
yeah.
You can say like, well, I don't want to be unhealthy when I get older. But if you're also not taking the actions if your actions don't match what you want, you're still going to answer to that shitty outcome. You're still going to be getting to the other side of retirement and trying to get back to a baseline of survival instead of being able to get to thriving, right? Like being the guy or gal who's, 70s and still playing golf every day and loving it and going for runs and stuff like that versus, you work, you bust your fucking ass off. And then the next thing you know, you're on the other side of retirement and you have a cane and you're on 5 different medications and, now you really don't have a fire for life. And that's the shit that really pisses me off is just how simple it can be, to be in a better place in your life, and we talked about this the other day. There's people in our lives that we know directly who it's like, dude, just take the fucking action. Like, you want to be there. You want to be in this position. Get out of your own fucking way and take the fucking action. Like, what are you doing? Like, it is literally a life or death scenario.
Yeah. And we talked about earlier, getting out of your own way. And I think you made a really good point there. Like, and I think that's what we talked about, like helping people simplify it. I think a lot of people don't realize that, as with a lot of things in life, business, IT development and stuff like that, fitness as well. There's still the 80-20 rule, right? You can probably do 20% of what you think you need to do exercise wise and get 80% benefit from it, right? And I think people always look at exercise as the opposite. I got to do 80% of this effort or work to only get 20%. And that's not exercising or focusing nutrition smarter, right? And I think that's, again, we're circling back around here, but that's the beauty of what I think you guys, ATH, All Terrain Human. Yeah, ATH. I said it right? The beauty that you guys are, where's that whiskey? Damn it. I need a whiskey shot right
Puff
now.
the cigar. Imagine it's there.
I need some whiskey and take me out of the Matrix. You're offering people the red pill, the blue pill, right? That's what you guys are offering, right?
Yeah,
this is the Matrix. You can live in your imaginary land, or we can offer you, what was it? Which one pill brought him to life? What's it?
It's the red pill.
The red pill. And that's what you guys are offering, the red pill. Like, look, we can open your eyes, right? And I think that's the beauty of it, and the group of the people that you're working for that and supporting, is opening their eyes to that, hey, look, it can be 20-80, not 80-20, right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
You do the minimum, master the things most essential to your survival, and that's going to take care of, 80% of your results. Like anything else you want to do on top of that is just, slicing hairs, right? It's just, do you want to be eating exact carbs and fats? Sure, you might get like 1 inch of your abs that looks a little bit better, right? Or, do you want to go and, eat 100% organic all the time or eat like clean 80% of the time. Well, the person who eats clean 80% of the time is probably going to be having just as good a physiological response as the person who eliminates gluten and dairy and sugar all the time, right?
Yeah.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode and took away some value that will amplify your life. But if you are ready to become an all-terrain human yourself, then click the link below to head over to our Facebook group to receive a copy of our all-terrain body blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life. These 5 pillars will show you how to speed up your metabolism at any age and eat for your specific metabolic needs so you can obtain your ideal composition without eliminating foods and spending all day in the gym. So if you're ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and fire for life, then click the link below and head over to the All Terrain Fitness Mentality and Fat Loss Facebook group to pick up a copy of the All Terrain Body Blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life, and we will see you on the inside. We know where I got my craziness from. We know fitness needs to be balanced. Do the minimum to reap the maximum. I'll leave it with one more question that we ask everyone. What does being an all-terrain human mean to you?
All-terrain human. What does that mean to me? I think we talked on it a little bit. Being all-terrain means, and you guys talk about it a lot too. It is being ready at fairly moment's notice to move, right? Mm-hmm. You and I have talked about this before. We used to even joke about it being that supple lion, right? You can get up and move. Like, let's say you have kids, right? As you know, you have a little brother, every young kid. So one of the beauties is being able to get up and move at any time, right? To be able to get out and run, to do push-ups and sit-ups. Like, yeah, maybe I can't do 100 push-ups anymore, but I'm at a point where I'm happy, and can do what works for my body and what I'm doing in a time frame. So I think, that's a huge thing of being an all-terrain human is just being ready to tackle any adventure that you want to do, right? Any adventure that comes along your way, I can go tackle it. I can do it. Whether that's just going out and jump on a trampoline or run around the house with your kid, or whether it's going golfing, or whether it's going running, whether it's going to hike or a mountain bike, to be able to be ready for those adventures, whatever they might be in life.
Yep. Nailed it. I mean, you could get up, and if you were sitting on your back sofa and you had to get up and run right away at age, 53?
Yeah.
You could go and do that if you wanted to. And there's not a lot of people who can't say that they can do that.
No, I probably shouldn't go sprint right away. I should probably roll out.
Yeah. It'll be like an 80%, but it's still...
You're still moving.
Shoot, I can't go out and be 100% anymore either. Full sprint, I'll be
you're getting to be
pulling a hamstring
yourself now, right?
I mean, I do all these slow twitch sports now,
You pick things up, put them down.
Yep, and mountain bike and run. So
yeah, which is great. Like you think about the area you guys are in, like it's very beneficial to be that all-terrain human, and it's great that you asked that question, because I think, at least from my perspective, whether it is for you guys or not, but, everybody has to find what that means for themselves, right? What does all-terrain human mean for you? Because what it means for me is definitely going to be different than what it means for the next person and the person after that, right?
Yep.
Like, what is that all-terrain human you want to be? And then how can you repeatedly find the fire day after day, right?
100%. And if you can get to that place, everything else is a lot better.
It is, yeah. And then you get to have, your kid gets crazy and does podcasts, and you get to be on the podcast. And
that's right.
Here we are.
And your kid gets to whoop your butt in golf, except for the last time.
Since the last time I won. Oh, yeah. I'm keeping that score, man. It was only by 1 stroke. I'm still not 100% convinced you didn't let me win, because I feel like maybe you're like, I just need to let the old man win one, so I'm not.
I got to keep him entertained.
Exactly. He won't want to golf with me anymore.
Got to let him know there's a chance.
Yeah. Like, forget this. Fuck this. I'm never golf with you again.
Hilarious stuff. I think it's a good spot to end it on, old man.
All right.
I appreciate the time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for
Appreciate it.
letting everyone kind of have an inside view of where I get my craziness from, but also what I guess what some people would call my gift.
Yeah, for sure.
But it definitely runs in the blood, but it's fun to be able to take that thing that you are so passionate about and give it to others. So, thanks for coming on. OG All Terrain human, fit as fuck at age 53. Be like him.
Thanks, man.
Peace.